Hello everybody, welcome back to another video. I'm hoping you guys are all having a fantastic day. So in today's video, as you can tell by the title, we'll be talking about a large storm system that could be tracking its way across the northern US and southern Canada. I forecast for Canada as well. There could be a lot of rain, obviously a lot of wind, definitely a unusual storm. I don't think we've had one of these in a while. For late summer, it's definitely well organized, well put together, has a defined area of circulation, almost I would say like a fall-like system. Just there won't be any snow, mainly obviously just rain and thunderstorms, but definitely a impressive storm to say the least. So before I get into its impacts and what that will be doing across the United States, if you guys would like to subscribe to this channel, consider doing so. Obviously don't subscribe just because I told you to. Check out the channel. If you like it, only do so. And same thing with liking the video. If you actually do enjoy, consider giving it a thumbs up. And if you have any comments or concerns, whatever they may be, leave them down below. I answer as many as I can get to. Usually it's a majority of them, probably 80 or 90%. So yeah, let's get into this. So first off, I want to start off by looking at the GFS model, and I just start off by random models. So I'll show you three main ones: the European, GFS, and Canadian. And the reason I'm showing you so many is well, obviously there are many models. Three isn't that many, but they're the best medium to long range models, and they are. You have to look at many because if you just look at one, I always do this comparison. It's looking at like one news source. If you look at one news source, you're gonna get some negative side effects from that, right? You're obviously gonna be biased or whatnot. You want to see what the other perspectives on a same story is, and that's the same thing. You want to see what other models show on different storm systems, and it's true because one model may have a cold bias. The other one may have a bias towards developing large unnecessary systems that are too strong. And yeah, so let me just show you all three of these models, and I'll try dissecting it for you. So notice that across the United States right now, we do have a cold front that's nestled across central United States into Ohio, Indiana, Missouri, and into the Southwest. It's mainly the monsoon season. Obviously, if you've been tracking the news, Tropical Storm Fred, it's a depression right now as I'm recording this video on August 13th at 5 p.m. At least that's the last time I checked. It will be developing into a storm, tropical storm. Estimated winds at around 60 approaching the panhandle of into Alabama and Mississippi. If it does strengthen a bit quicker, that could reach into a weak hurricane. So yeah, definitely stay tuned to the National Hurricane Center and the National Weather Service and your local authorities for that. People ask me why I don't go over the tropics that much. First of all, I don't have as much expertise in that, or just interest, honestly, because even what I have in winter storms isn't expertise. It's just a hobby, right? But I just don't have that much interest in it. And also, it's definitely much more of a severe event. And I'd rather not take away attention from people that actually deserve to be listened to, like your authorities, the National Hurricane Center, National Weather Service. So yeah, stay tuned to them. But I am telling you right now that yes, there is going to be a tropical storm, probably a hurricane, or sorry, at least a tropical storm, maybe a hurricane into the panhandle of Florida, or Alabama or Mississippi area. Notice the GFS puts it right there. So this is into Monday, this is into Tuesday now, and you may be wondering, okay, where's this big storm? Look across the northwest. Look at Montana, Idaho, and southwestern Canada. Right here. We don't really see much, right? But we do see a bit of energy, and we do see a bit of rain. That's already unusual because this year's been so dry for Montana. When we see rain there, we know that it's some feature that's been resilient enough to push through the pattern that's been stubborn. All right, and notice that as we push into into Wednesday and into Thursday, this is now Wednesday 1 p.m. We see widespread moderate to light rain across Montana, southwestern Canada, southern Canadian prairies. They need that rain, so that's definitely good news. That doesn't look like anything impressive, but hold your horses, right? Look what happens here. We start seeing convection and activity building across Nebraska, South Dakota, Iowa, Missouri, Kansas, and look what happens. We see almost like a cold front develop, a comma-shaped kind of backlash of precipitation, and almost what that would be your warm front. Now, you can see that Canadian does develop this very well. It's almost like that mushroom head shape storm, which we always see. Here we have the kind of where if this was a winter storm, we would have the snow over here, probably Here would be the warm front with some thunderstorms, maybe some light rain, and in this sector it's usually the warmest, or really in between this and this front. So if we were to actually take a look at that, let's see what the anomalies show in terms of the temperatures to see if that's accurate. Just to see, yeah, look at that right there. Between them we have the warmest air. So yeah, that's not really a surprise. That's what these storm systems do. It's so cool that you could like make patterns just off of how the storm sets up. But yeah, the warm air you can see is suppressed, so that will be very warm. But behind it, as you saw, the Canadian introduces quite a bit of cool air. And look, as we push this through, that we see a lot of circulation. Again, the system back builds. It has pretty strong winds, so that helps again drag in some of that cool air. We do see some convection working kind of under the underbelly of the storm, so you can see that kind of helps the system stay in motion, and it does push out eventually, and you can see it weakens into this kind of sprawled out spider web of showers and activity. But it does leave us with some cool air for at least a little bit. If we were to take a glance at the anomalies, you could see that they're more centered across the west. But let's take a look at this. So again, there's our temperatures, there's our cold front, our warm front soon to form. Right there's our little crevice of warm air, and there you can see that cool air, especially across areas they need it the most, the northwest and northern plains. That's going to feel good. May not make its way much further to the south than this, but there are some differences between the models, and I want to take a look at this. Let's take a glance at the GFS. Notice already different that time frame, but let's take a look at the newest model run and take a glance at the GFS. So, well, the newest is the 18Z, except it doesn't go out far enough to see that storm. So let's just go to the one that's a bit older, still very up-to-date information. Notice this is the same thing, right? Sunday, Monday, we have that tropical storm. You can see the GFS does not have it as strong as a Canadian. That's already a difference, and it has it hitting more of the Florida area rather than the Alabama kind of coastal region, where the model I just showed you, the Canadian, has that. So notice there's our precipitation across Montana, the northern plains, and into the South Canadian prairies, developing quite a bit of rain. Again, a bit further to the south. Notice that the GFS has, again, rain across similar areas, except the low pressure and kind of the bulk of the activity is further to the south. What does that mean? Well, a few things. We have probably more severe weather. It's closer to the tropics. You could tap into that. Notice this is very impressive convection into Saturday, Sunday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday of next week. Very, very impressive. And we also, according to the GFS, do develop a cold front, a warm front, maybe not as characteristic of a low pressure as what the Canadian showed, but definitely still an impressive system nonetheless. And notice that as we push this forward into Saturday, Sunday, right, there's a lot of rain that pushes into Canada. That's good news. Again, folks there need that rain, but it's more towards the west that they need it, not so much maybe the southeastern Canadian area, but you'll get the rain nonetheless. Mother Nature doesn't play by who needs the rain, just drops it where it wants to. And you can see that cold front does stretch very far to the back, and it looks as if it could stall out across the coast. Again, lots of moisture, so that would play in quite a bit with activity for the northeast. And of course, the pattern does stay active afterwards as well. The GFS does introduce some cool air, but it doesn't have as well of a developed system, so it's not as strong, can't bring in as much cool air. But I think from the last time I checked, yeah, you can see it still does bring in that relatively chilly air, and the difference is it brings it a bit further towards the south and east, not just the northern plains. But you will get in on that across the north as well. So notice there's our warm air, there's our warm front, our cold front. So yeah, relative agreement, especially around the timeline of when this is happening. Obviously, quite a bit of rain would fall from that. Let's take a glance at our 240, as that's probably when that system will start dragging away, at least from the northern plains, and shifting its attention towards the east coast. So let's take a look at that total accumulated precipitation. Notice quite a bit here with the tropics, but definitely decent rains up here across the northern plains, especially where those bands do set up. I think there could be some decent rains, to say the least, across the Dakotas and into portions of southern Canada. Look at that right there. As we push this forward into potentially our 300, look at all that rain forming across the east coast. And that's a lot of rain, especially if you do get moisture from the tropics to help that cold front. Yeah, that could definitely and produce some rather wet conditions. Now, I want to show you the Canadian 240-hour outlook. Notice it shows a lot across southern Canada, decent rains across the northern plains. It's not a ton, but again, I do feel that this might be a bit underdone. Over here, obviously, quite a bit of rain across the mid-south, the southeast, and the northeast. That's to do with the combination of the storm system and as well as the showers and storms from the tropics that the system will be dragging up. And maybe, Tropical Storm Fred passes through, brings on another tropical storm or hurricane, which is possible. Some models are showing it's definitely going to keep things wet down there, regardless of whether or not the storm takes a shape that's more with the GFS or Canadian agreement or the European, which I'm showing you right now. This is the third model I want to show you, and let's take a glance at it. So notice that we start off with generally decent amounts of precip across the south. Yes, there we have Tropical Storm Fred making its way into Florida, almost Alabama. So again, the more it stays on water, the longer it has time to develop. Look at that. We start seeing showers and activity across the northwest. It does start intensify. Look at that. Into Wednesday, lots of showers, especially across Canada. Some severe thunderstorms as well. Maybe some even severe weather outbreak potentials. And notice, look at that, all that rain into North Dakota, Minnesota, South Dakota. That's an impressive chunk of precipitation. And the European develops this into a, again, very vicious system. 993 millibars. There's our warm front. There's our cold front. Lots of rain up here. Again, if this were to be a winter storm, we would have a blizzard on the backside of this, though it's not cold enough for that to happen. It takes on a characteristic of a winter storm right there. And again, if you were to take a look at the temperatures, it's the warmest between those two kind of fronts. And there we go. Notice, yeah, right there, we could clearly see. There's let's see where this is coming. There we go, right there. You can see that warm air. Here's our warm front. Here's our cold front, and kind of in between that, so we have the warmest, and behind it we do have that cooler air, which the European does show as well, like all the other models. And what's interesting is, let me go back to the precip for the European. I want to show you that, again, by the way, the timing for this system, midweek, starting across the northern plains and pushing into the Great Lakes by Thursday, Friday, into Saturday into the northeast. The European, interesting enough, does drag that cold front, right? It does sweep a little bit of this moisture away, and it does end up developing almost like a second system further across the northeast, but also even a third system back across the Midwest. Look at that, another low pressure, strong cold front, and a lot of precipitation due to that one. So definitely an interesting pattern. Maybe larger storms, less of this summer-like, pop-up activity. And yeah, it definitely noticed that with each cold front passage, it clears out a lot of activity that's kind of going on across the United States. But yeah, these could be powerful, large storms. Severe weather is definitely a concern as we go into fall. Usually they say it's the second severe weather season, fall. That's what they've been saying, at least for the past few years, as it's been getting relatively active during the fall compared to prior years. So yeah, definitely something to watch for. And notice that with the rain, obviously, with those storms, there's quite a bit of rain. The southeast, quite a bit. The south, explanatory, right, with all that pop-up showers, some effect from the storm, but mainly, obviously, these storms bringing quite a bit of rain into southern Canada. Then you could see North Dakota, South Dakota, Montana, Iowa, Nebraska. Again, if it is a bit more developed, maybe further across Illinois, Michigan, Wisconsin, a lot of these models underplay the impacts of thunderstorms on these areas, so I think that could be quite a bit of an impact as well. Southeastern Canada, decent rains as well. The northeast, especially if that cold front stalls out from one of those systems, it could definitely bring a lot of rain. But regardless, you could see it shows 2 inches for New York City, right there, almost an inch for Boston. And again, definitely favoring the south, but also the north with some decent rains. Let's just take a look at the snowfall. I know you may be like, what? Snowfall? Let's just take a glance at it, because I think there might be some in the mountains falling. I want to see for myself, honestly. Yeah, there could be a little bit. Even shows a bit across Montana, so, it's the first signs of it. Definitely nothing unusual. There have been snows like this in the prior, and yeah, look at that, 1 to 2 inches right there. British Columbia, 1, 2, 3. It's kind of unusual, or kind of weird to see it. Even any snow amounts across areas that have been so warm this year. But yeah, it would have to be extremely warm not to see snow that far up into the mountains. But as we push us forward into time, obviously the snow will become more and more widespread. We could take a look at the CFS for the fun of it. I never take a look at this model because it's so darn inaccurate for weather pattern prediction, but it just shows you how the climate could change. And yeah, notice that as we push us forward in time, we see more of these gray colors scattering across the north, which again is indicative of 1 inch snow depth. So yeah, that's pretty accurate. Mid-September, there definitely could be some snow into Manitoba, Saskatchewan, maybe northeast Quebec and whatnot. So yeah, really nothing that I wouldn't disagree with. And if it's an early winter or early fall, that could definitely bring in some of that snow. Again, this is a very poor model, so ignore really what it shows across the U.S. Just kind of like to look at it once the seasons start changing, and you can start seeing those more of those blue colors across Wyoming or into Quebec and areas, whatnot. So yeah, I mean, look at that, Yellowstone potentially seeing some snow there. All right, that was just for fun of it. Okay, so yeah, expect a large storm system potentially by next midweek, developing into the weekend, and then after that, an active pattern with more systems. Again, obviously, Tropical Storm Fred is going to be impacting the U.S. this weekend, so that's even before that big storm. So a lot of stuff to track, a lot of things to keep an eye on for, but that's all part of the weather. And hopefully you enjoyed. Hopefully you learned something new, guys, and I'll catch you all on the next episode. See ya.